They locked her in a room with only her reflection, until she forgot she was human. In the 17th century, deep in the heart of Eastern Europe, a little-known noble estate perched on the edge of a forest practiced a cruel and secretive ritual they never recorded in writing. The estate belonged to the House of Velkov, an aristocratic family that vanished from public records after a scandal so horrifying it was whispered only in broken sentences by aging villagers for centuries. The last heiress of that bloodline was a girl named Anika Velkov, only 12 when she began showing signs that disturbed her tutors and terrified her mother. She would speak to her reflection in the mirror at odd hours, laughing as if in conversation with someone no one else could see. Sometimes, she'd touch the glass and whisper secrets as if expecting it to answer. The servants said she never blinked when staring at her reflection, and that once, her reflection smiled after she had stopped. At first, they believed it to be childhood madness, but it was far worse than that. The Velkov family were rumored to be guardians of an ancient manuscript called the Doctrine of the Unseen Eye, a forbidden text that suggested mirrors were not reflections, but thresholds. They taught, in secret, that mirrors could absorb identity, memory, and even humanity, if one gazed long enough. To cure Anika, her father, a cold and devout man obsessed with spiritual purification, enacted a centuries-old rite passed down through the family line. It was called the isolation of the image. They locked Anika in a room with no windows, no books, no sounds, just 4 walls lined with antique, full-length mirrors. No furniture, no candles. Only her own face staring back from every direction. Day and night, she was watched by herself, and for the first few days, she screamed until her voice went raw, pounded the doors, cried until she collapsed. But then, she began to speak again, calmly, gently, like a child speaking to a playmate. The guards outside reported hearing 2 voices, one hers, and one, slightly delayed, slightly deeper. One time, they swore they heard laughter echo without her mouth moving at all. She forgot the names of her parents. Then she forgot her own. Eventually, she stopped referring to herself as I. Instead, she began using we. When they finally opened the door 83 days later, what stood there was not Anika. Her face was expressionless, her eyes unblinking. She walked out slowly, mirror smooth in her movements. And when her mother rushed to embrace her, Anika recoiled, not in fear, but in something stranger. She reached out and gently touched her mother's cheek and said, "You are not real. You don't shine." Then, she turned toward the hallway mirror and smiled warmly at it. What happened next was never recorded officially, but the townspeople said the estate burned down the next week. Every mirror shattered from inside. Every servant and family member disappeared. Some say they saw figures, silent and faceless, moving through the windows before the fire erupted. But the strangest part, Anika's body was never found. The only thing left was a single cracked mirror in the rubble, and etched on the glass, in breath fog, were the words, "I remember now. I was never alone. We were always watching." Over the years, antique collectors reported finding ornate mirrors with strange carvings traced in the style of the Velkov crest. Some who brought them home would complain of odd reflections, faces that looked too tired, too unfamiliar. Some swore they saw movement, even when they stood still. One man in Budapest was found dead, surrounded by dozens of mirrors, and every single one bore his reflection with a different facial expression. And in all of them, he wasn't blinking. They say Anika still exists, if you can call it that, trapped in the space between glass and world, pulling others in. Every mirror, a window. Every reflection, a lure. All she needs is one person to look long enough and forget who they are. 3 centuries later, in 1910, a scholar named Dr. Emil Krantz arrived in the Carpathian region of Eastern Europe. He was a historian obsessed with disproving superstition through rational methodology. He had read the scattered, crumbling pages of a journal from a former monk who had served the Velkov family, and in that journal were references to the isolation of the image. Krantz called it a primitive metaphor for mental illness. But the deeper he dug, the more obsessed he became. He tracked down a mirror said to be one of the few surviving from the Velkov estate. A tall, rosewood-framed looking glass, found abandoned in a ruined chapel, and later passed through generations of terrified owners. Krantz took it home. He set it up in his study, lit by a single oil lamp, determined to observe it for days, keeping rigorous notes. Day 1. No change. I can see myself. I'll look tired, perhaps, but this is expected. Day 3. I swear the reflection is slightly behind my movements. Perhaps the glass is warped. Day 5. I thought I blinked, but my reflection didn't. Day 8. I dreamed I was in the mirror, and I looked out at myself. The man outside wasn't me. He locked himself in his study for 2 more days. On the 10th morning, neighbors smelled something strange. Melted wax, old meat. When they broke the door, they found the study empty. But the mirror was gone. Just gone. Not stolen. Not shattered. Missing. Krantz's chair sat facing the blank wall where it once stood. On his desk was one final, hastily written note, scribbled in red ink. She knows I'm watching. But now, she is too. Today, the tale of the Mirror Girl has spread across the internet, usually among horror forums and video essayists. People trade stories, many fabricated, about cursed mirrors, stolen identities, and haunted bedrooms. But the deeper communities, the ones buried in private Discord servers and anonymous message boards, share more specific detail. If you find a mirror that is warm to the touch, or your reflection lingers half a second too long, or you begin to hear faint breathing when no one is around, you may have found one of Anika's mirrors. Those who obsess over their own reflections, checking every blemish, recording TikToks to watch themselves over and over, are said to be more vulnerable. Because Anika no longer needs to be summoned. She waits for those who already stare too long. And once she sees you looking, she never stops. In 1992, a girl named Lena Hart was admitted to a psychiatric facility in Krakow after her parents found her screaming in the mirror at 3 a.m., begging her reflection to give her body back. Lena had no known mental health history. Her parents reported she had become obsessed with her appearance in the weeks leading up to the incident. She said her reflection had started disagreeing with her, shaking its head when she nodded, looking away when she stared into its eyes. Doctors diagnosed her with early-onset schizophrenia, but strange things began happening in the institution. Patients on her floor began complaining that their mirrors behaved strangely. Security footage showed Lena sitting perfectly still for hours, staring at the wall, yet her shadow seemed to shift. A nurse claimed that when she looked into Lena's mirror, she didn't see her own reflection, but Lena, standing right behind her, eyes open and grinning. One night, Lena vanished from her locked room. Only the mirror remained, with a bloody handprint on the inside of the glass. That mirror was placed in storage. 2 weeks later, the entire psychiatric ward burned down. A small underground cult has reformed in recent years, claiming they are the watchers of Anika. They believe she is not a curse, but an awakening force, that she lives in the liminal space of the mirror world, a realm parallel to ours, made of reflection and memory, where thought becomes shape. They teach a version of the isolation of the image, turning it into a modern ritual. Members willingly isolate themselves with mirrors for days, trying to merge with their other self. Most go mad, some go missing, but a few have reappeared, transformed, quiet, smooth-speaking, always dressed in symmetrical clothing, never blinking, always near mirrors. One such follower live-streamed their ritual in 2021. The feed went static for 3 minutes. When it resumed, the figure on screen was just standing still, smiling, and the chat noticed. The livestream window showed 2 reflections in the glass behind her. Neither one moved. You, the viewer, might think it's all just a story. You might look into your mirror tonight and laugh. Maybe even lean closer, test it, see if your reflection blinks a second too late. But here's what they don't tell you. It doesn't happen right away. The trap is in the watching. The mirrors don't take you when you're afraid. They take you when you become fascinated. When you begin to prefer your reflection over the real world. When you start talking to it, trusting it, thinking it understands you better than anyone else. That's when she finds her opening. That's when Anika touches the inside of the glass and begins to pull. In 2008, a 5-year-old girl named Raya Milton was adopted from a Bulgarian orphanage by an American couple. She was malnourished, quiet, and always clutching a small shard of cracked mirror when she arrived at the Denver airport. No one knew where the shard came from. The orphanage staff had no record of it. They simply said that Raya would scream if it was taken away. At first, the adoptive parents thought it was a comfort item. Strange, yes, but not unheard of. Until Raya began waking up at night, walking to the bathroom, and whispering into the mirror for hours. Her parents recorded it once. They expected baby gibberish or imagination. What they heard was something else. I saw what you showed me. I remember now. You said I could be her, and she could be me. You said we could trade. I want to be on the other side. Raya's eyes would stay wide, open the entire time. Her voice calm. Her reflection always a second off. One night, the father found her standing on the bathroom sink, pressing her forehead against the mirror. He gently asked what she was doing. Without looking away, she whispered, "She says I can leave when I find someone to take my place." After that, every mirror in the house was covered. It didn't help. Shadows began moving where they shouldn't. The TV screen flickered static even when unplugged. The parents began seeing glimpses, not of Raya, but of a different girl. Older, pale, dressed in 17th century clothes. On their last night in the house, the mother woke up to see Raya standing at the foot of their bed, not blinking. In the morning, Raya was gone, but the mirrors were uncovered again, and in the master bedroom mirror, they found a small bloody handprint on the inside of the glass. By 2014, psychologists across Europe began documenting a pattern of patients suffering from what they coined symmetry syndrome. Patients afflicted with it reported compulsive mirror checking, loss of identity, confusion between self and reflection, nightmares of being on the wrong side of the glass, and in rare cases, complete withdrawal from the real world. In one chilling case, a man in Oslo refused to leave his bathroom for 47 days, claiming he wasn't the original anymore and that the one in the mirror had already taken his life. When his family finally forced entry, they found him staring into a shattered mirror, every fragment showing a slightly different version of his face. His eyes were open, but he was completely unresponsive. Doctors recorded the official cause of his death as psychogenic catatonia. But the nurses noticed something strange in his final moments. His reflection was smiling, even as his face remained still. In 2019, a team of urban explorers ventured into the ruins of the Velkov estate. What remained of the family's crumbled castle, now buried beneath vines and snow. The footage they uploaded to YouTube was grainy, but genuine. Deep beneath the stone cellar, behind a false wall, they found a hidden chamber. It was lined with mirrors, hundreds of them, all intact, arranged in a perfect circle. In the center of the room was a single wooden chair and a silver comb placed neatly on the seat. One of the explorers, a woman named Marla, walked into the circle for a better shot. As she stepped between the mirrors, her audio began to glitch. The image shook, then nothing. The camera fell. The rest of the team found the chair empty, the mirrors still. Marla was gone, vanished in seconds. Police never found her body, but days later, her sister received a package in the mail with no return address. Inside was a mirror, old, slightly warm to the touch, and carved into the frame. "We see you now. Let's say you've come this far, listening. Let's say you've begun to feel the urge to test your own reflection. Maybe you'll go to the bathroom right after this video ends. Maybe you already have a mirror near you. Maybe you're wondering if you'd noticed something, if the timing was just a little off. But that's the thing. You wouldn't, because that's the point of the mirror ritual. It's not about jump scares. It's about erosion, little by little, glance by glance, until one day you stop asking if the reflection is copying you, and you begin wondering, am I copying it? And when you start to ask which one of you is the original. Anika has already won. There's one more story. This one from a Reddit user in 2022 who claimed they bought an old mirror from a closed-down mental institution storage auction. No one else bid on it. The seller gave it away for $5. The buyer set it up in their basement. At first, everything seemed fine, but over the weeks, they noticed. The cat refused to go near the basement. Reflections that seemed brighter than the actual room. Dreams of a young girl with silver eyes and no shadow. The last post the user made was a blurry photo, a mirror showing two people in the reflection, though the basement had been empty. The caption read, "She said I could finally be seen. I just had to stop blinking." The account has never posted since. They never published the full report. In 2020, a private European institute, known in leaked documents only as Project Fluxer, conducted a series of visual cognition studies on long-term exposure to mirrored environments. The volunteers were all paid handsomely and subjected to controlled isolation in a specially constructed room, one that had no windows, no furniture, and every surface covered in curved, ancient mirrors acquired from across Eastern Europe. The volunteers were allowed light, food, and water. Nothing else. The goal? To see how long it took before a subject began to feel that the reflection was more real than the self. The first subject, participant 018, lasted 21 days before reporting. "My reflection doesn't blink when I do. I'm pretty sure she watches even when I sleep." She was removed, but when she was escorted out, the guards reported her reflection remained in the room for several seconds after she had exited. They burned the tapes. Participant 022 bit off her own tongue on day 10. They said she was trying to silence the voices that speak through the mirror. Her medical chart was marked as possessed delusion, but her blood sample registered an abnormal compound, silver nitrate, the compound used in antique mirror manufacturing, despite no physical contact with the glass. Participant 030 disappeared on day 33. The security footage glitched for 17 seconds. When it resumed, the room was empty, just a mirror, and in it, a second chair had appeared. In a small chapel in Slovenia, converted into a secret containment site, monks trained in ancient rites tried to seal one of the known Anika mirrors. This one was distinct. Its reflection always appeared to be a few seconds ahead of real time. They built a stone tomb around it, with iron symbols etched into every surface. They placed it facing another mirror, in hopes that two reflections would cancel each other out. What happened was worse. The two mirrors began distorting, their glass rippling like water under pressure. The air grew cold. Lights flickered. The monks reported hearing screams echoing from within the stone walls, in multiple voices at once. The last entry in their journal read, "She has found herself. Now she is not alone." The chapel has been abandoned since. Local villagers call it the House of the Watching Glasses. No one goes near it. Some say if you press your ear to the door, you can hear breathing, not one, but two rhythms. In 2023, a popular YouTube horror influencer, known as Mirror Mike, began a series called Reflections, 7 Days in the Glass. It was meant to be a viral experiment. He would live for a full week in a mirrored room, live streaming 24/7. By day 2, his fans noticed something disturbing. His eyes never blinked. By day 4, Mike stopped responding to comments. He simply sat, staring into the mirror, whispering things the mic couldn't quite catch. Audio analysts later confirmed the whispers were in an archaic Bulgarian dialect, despite Mike not knowing the language. On day 6, the stream froze, and when it resumed, there were two mics on screen, one standing behind the other. Only one of them was breathing. The video has since been removed from YouTube for graphic content, but frame-by-frame analysis revealed something strange. Every mirrored surface in the video showed a slightly different version of Mike. Different facial expressions, different timing, different intentions. Only one version smiled directly at the camera. They say the mirrors are growing stronger, faster. You no longer need isolation. You no longer need a ritual. All you need to do is want to see yourself more than you see the world. That's all it takes. That's the key that opens the gate. Anika, they say, was the first to cross the threshold, but not the last. Now, there are dozens like her, maybe hundreds. People who stared too long, people who whispered back, people who let go of who they were, one day at a time, until the mirror could remake them. You may have passed them on the street. They move smoothly. They dress perfectly. They never blink. And they don't cast shadows in uneven light. They always keep a mirror nearby, just in case. So if you're still watching this, and you're near a reflective surface, take my advice. Don't look. Don't glance. Don't double-check. Because the real danger isn't in what the reflection shows you. It's in what it remembers. Every second you've looked at yourself. Every second you've wished you were different. Every time you've wondered if your reflection thinks differently than you. She remembers it all. And if you listen hard enough, right before sleep, when your room is quiet, you might hear her whisper from behind the glass. You've been mine since the first time you looked. Now, let me out. Part 20. The surveillance tape. A tech repair specialist named Jared Elwin was sent to recover corrupted CCTV footage from a mall dressing room incident. The case had been marked as a minor electrical fault, but the mall had shut down that entire wing after a girl went missing behind a locked mirror. Jared found the footage. It was heavily glitched, colors reversed, timestamps looping, audio filled with high-pitched tones. But through the distortion, one 6-minute clip played clearly. A teenage girl enters the dressing room. She sets down her phone, tries on a jacket, and turns to the mirror. That's when the reflection delays by half a second. Then it tilts its head in the wrong direction. The girl freezes. Her mouth opens. The reflection doesn't move. Then slowly, her reflection lifts its hand and begins tapping from the inside. 5 slow, echoing knocks. The girl screams. The lights cut. She vanishes, but the mirror keeps recording. And in the final frame, there's someone else standing behind the mirror's surface, dressed in 17th century silk, pale hands pressed to the glass, smiling. Jared submitted the footage. 2 days later, he was found dead in his apartment, all mirrors shattered, and every screen displaying a single message. She doesn't want to be seen. She wants to be remembered. In 2024, a small team of forensics researchers opened a long-forgotten asylum archive in a Romanian village. Beneath layers of dust and rot, they uncovered Observation Room A77, a chamber used in the early 1900s to observe disturbed patients through one-way glass. But what disturbed the team wasn't the patients. It was the glass itself. The one-way mirror had thick fingerprints on the inside, scratch marks, and behind the glass was a small crawl space where nothing should have been. Inside it, a child's silver hairbrush, a small velvet shoe, and a note, written in a mix of Latin and Slavic script. The one inside is not who we put in. The one inside remembers too much. One researcher, Dr. Gabrielle Etten, stayed behind to document the mirror's condition. She never submitted her report, but her voice was later found on a corrupted field recorder. A single line played clearly. I think I just saw myself blink, but I didn't. By now, whispers of Anika's mirrors had spread through deep web horror forums and occult collector circles. One rare artifact surfaced, a mirror with no reflection at all. A black void, a surface that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Whoever looked into it felt immediate nausea, dizziness, and a sense of being observed from behind their own eyes. A collector in Prague bought it for $11,000. He posted updates online, laughing at the superstition. Day 1. No reflection. Cool effect. Probably just treated glass. Day 3. Sometimes I hear knocking from the other side. I think I saw something move. Day 5. My reflection was in it last night. Only me, but I was smiling. Final post. She asked me a question in my dream. What are you without your shadow? I didn't know how to answer. His account went silent after that. This is the story no one wants to admit is real. A university in Estonia ran secret tests on what they called a responsive mirrored entity, a reflective surface that occasionally displayed movements before the observer did. It anticipated motion, predicted blinking, and then started behaving independently. One night, the mirror went dark. All cameras in the lab cut out. When power returned, the mirror was shattered from the inside. Security footage shows someone, moving through the hallway. A girl with pale skin, soaking wet. Her footsteps don't make sound. Her face is never caught by cameras. But every reflective surface in the lab, monitors, glass, even polished steel, shows her. That same expression, that same childlike smirk. One technician fled and later described it like this. I knew she wasn't real, but she was acting like I wasn't. Let's return to the beginning. What is a reflection? Is it light bouncing off your body, captured in polished silver? Or is it something darker? Is it a memory of you, held in a place just outside our world? Think of all the hours we've spent staring into mirrors, brushing hair, adjusting ties, scrutinizing flaws. All the time you've given to your reflection, and never once has it not been there. Never once has it looked away. Never once has it refused you. Doesn't that make you wonder? Maybe you've been staring at her this whole time. Maybe Anika has always been there, waiting, learning, mimicking. And maybe, just maybe, one day she won't wait anymore. She'll blink first, and you won't blink at all, because you're no longer the one in control.